To remove and replace the case cover lock, we first have to take the carpeted trim panel behind the rear bench off. It's again fastened with, I believe, 16 of these rivet style tabs, where again you pull out the middle part first, and after you've pulled the middle part out, the rest comes up easily. And you can do this pulling, as I said earlier, on other trim panels, either with a flat screwdriver or with the luxury of a trim panel removal tool. Plus there are two on each side of these tabs that actually unscrew. Theoretically you can put a tool into these two holes, but it's actually easy enough to just press on them and turn, and they come out. So having removed all these tabs, we can remove this trim panel. Here we go, and we get access to the rear bow lock. Well, almost. There are 9 10mm hex head bolts to be removed from this protective sheet metal cover. So 10mm ratchet or wrench, or the luxury of a drill makes this job really easy. And the sheet metal cover is off, and we have 3 more 10mm hex head bolts to remove. May as well do it now. Where's the other one? Somewhere back here. And where's the last one? Up here. And with that, the rear bow lock is unbolted, and this is the case cover lock. And same as on the rear bow lock, we have a friction fit on this connector, and again we pull the hose clips out, and with that we can swap latches. One thing important to point out is that the case cover lock is slightly different between early model years and late model years. Early model years, where the VIN, the last six digits of the VIN up to 070018, which was sometime in 2000, will have case cover lock part number 12475000684, whereas the later ones after VIN ending in 070018 will have a slightly different case cover lock with the same cylinder but a different latch. That's part number 20875000984. And when you order from Top Hydraulics Core Exchange, you simply enter your model year. If you have a model year 2000 or 2001, you want to double check the last 6 digits of the VIN. Just to show you the detail, to remove this connector, push a flat screwdriver in here and it undoes the friction fit. You notice the early model years have 4 pins on the connector, later ones have 2 pins on the connector. And on the hoses, again we put a small flat screwdriver in here, lever it around a little bit, and these clips will come out. It would be smart to have a paper towel under here so that we don't squirt any fluid, but the system happens to be pretty empty because it had been leaking for a long time. So get that clip out all the way, pull the hose, and once again the even hose number goes at the blunt ends of the cylinder, the odd hose number goes at the shaft end of the cylinder. The hose number is punched on the lock here anyway, number 31 on the shaft end, number 32 on the blunt end. So all we have to do is swap in the good cylinder from Top Hydraulics, rebuilt, should be good for about 30 to 50 years. certainly will last longer than an original new one from Mercedes would now, because top hydraulic seals are so much better. That is, they are inert to water. You are certainly at some point going to have some condensation in the reservoir of the pump. If the condensation builds up, you have water collecting in the pump. If that water gets into the hydraulic fluid, your brand new cylinder from Mercedes would fail within about a year, whereas water doesn't do a thing to top hydraulic seals. Same for stop leak additives. They make the original Mercedes seals swell up. Also the seals of our valued competition, but not so top hydraulics. And we put the barbed end of the clip, meaning the wider end, into the cylinder's rail first. I had a bit of a problem getting this clip slid on, and why? Because I did not push the hose all the way into the cylinder. Now it's in all the way, meaning the bump disappears in the cylinder. Now I'm able to push the clip back on. Lastly, we put this lock back in place and put the connector back on. It will go on only in the correct position, and all we have to do is retighten the bolts to exactly the position that they were in before. You notice that we have some slotted holes here to mount the latch. If you want to be perfect, you look at what height this latch was mounted at before. You can still see the marks from the bolts. Actually, this one was pulled up all the way to the top. Just imagine I had already fastened the other two bolts, and we are ready to reinstall the carpeted panel and move on to the next cylinder. Ta-da! Okay, if you absolutely must take the cylinder out of the lock because you don't want to go for the core exchange with the lock already mounted, I'll show you how it's taken out. The first step to taking the cylinder out of the latch is to actually cycle the latch. Two reasons: one, you get the fluid out, and two, the latch needs to be closed in order to remove the cylinder without the chrome shaft hitting the edges of this latch. Now, the way to cycle this latch is you cannot just turn it. You first have to push down on the receiving mechanism here, and now if you push hard enough, it'll come down by itself, or you could help it by putting your 10mm wrench or soft top tool on this pivot point. Now we have cycled this latch down practically all the way. Next step is to remove the circlip here. To remove the circlip, you can just put a small flat screwdriver in there, 1/8 inch or so, and don't do what I just did, but actually walk it slowly. If you put one finger on the clip and you turn the screwdriver, then you can just walk the clip off the pin here and it doesn't go flying. If you need another clip, another circlip, just let Top Hydraulics know and we'll give it to you for free with your shipment. So now we can pull the cylinder out, and as we extend the shaft, there may be some more fluid coming out. Well, this one was pretty dry, we got lucky. Next step would be with a 5mm wrench to go onto this flat end of the cylinder. 5mm open wrenches are hard to come by, so if you absolutely have to do this, then just use some narrow vice grips all the way at the end of the shaft. Turn counterclockwise, and again, if you put vice grips somewhere in the middle of this shaft, or if you get the shaft caught on the sharp edge of the lock, then you have just ruined your cylinder. Top Hydraulics can replace the shafts. We make them brand new in our own manufacture out of hardened, polished, chromed stainless steel, but that would cost you extra. So please don't put tools in the middle of the shaft. Be very careful not to damage the shaft. Unscrew it over here and the cylinder's out, and you can put the replacement back in.